Welcome to Burnout Business and Body, the podcast that inspires you to take care of yourself and your life in 3 powerful ways.
Hi, my name is Nicole, and I am your stress management health recovery coach. Here to help you slow down, reconnect, and rediscover the peace that lives beneath the pressure through educating and sharing my experiences.
And I'm Belinda Smith, your business leadership and team coach, here to show you how to grow your business, grow a business that supports your life and your team, that builds cohesion and leads to greater connections and healthy profit.
And I'm Sabina, your performance coach. I teach you strategies and shortcuts to work with your body instead of against it. So you can not only get more done in less time, but you will optimize your energy and performance from the inside out.
And together we'll explore how burnout, business and body all connect and how small shifts in each can create big changes in your energy, your work and your life.
Ooh, Belinda, this is your specialty today, right?
Well, something that I'm very passionate about.
And seeing the good and finding what you love about people and their love language. I love this. And you can apply what we're going to talk about, I think, as well, is that whole love language book. I still have yet to read it, but yeah, I think that's exciting. So tell me, where did this idea of learning to see the good in people really begin for you? I know you've got loads of experience, so I can't find out where it all sort of stems from.
Well, there are two areas. There was a business area and a personal area. I'll talk about the personal one to start with. Is talking about my stepchildren who are so important.
How many step kids have you got? Just remind me, because I think you're extraordinary.
Four.
That's 4. So I mean, that's just extraordinary. Sorry, jump in. Continue. 4 step kids. Wow, amazing.
Yeah, and they're very special to me. Though I realised, 20-something years ago, is that you don't fall in love with them instantly like you would a newborn, for example. The hormones will take over your body instantaneously once you have a baby. That I found, and that love sort of happens straight away. And so I had to learn how to love the kids intentionally and really find what I loved about them to fall in love with them. So I started intentionally looking for the good and not even realising I was doing it, but like, oh, isn't that cute? Isn't that cute? Really like, what can I dig into here? What is so beautiful? And it helped me. It's helped me a lot. But there's a lot of other areas that it's been, that it's come about for me as well. Because in the same premise, for example, I'd learned in business that with teams there was a challenge I always had with lateness and what I thought lateness was. And I used to sort of instantly see it as being careless or disrespectful. And it was just my bias around that. And so, when our values meet other people's behaviour, our brain fills in the story. And
I love that.
So
I love that.
Yeah, I was making it up, like about what it meant. I generally believed this because I had a thing about it. But what's the thing,
That's beautiful. And so why do our brains jump to what's wrong so fast?
Oh, well, we're also wired to have a negative bias. Our brain kind of notices the problem faster than the positives. And it's because of the survival technique. If we talk about in the age-old, historical years before us, is that there were problems, so we were fearful, and so that wiring to make ourselves consider the challenge before anything else. And, when we're sort of emotionally activated, with stress or family, and the distortions get stronger. They build up. And I know that my brain wasn't seeing a late staff member. It was seeing a threat to something that I deeply valued. And it just wasn't the truth. It just wasn't what it was. And these sort of, different things that I had learned. And if I could jump in and just share something here, because it's just top of mind, I'd walk into a room, years ago, and my kids would be making a mess or cooking or doing something. And I'd walk in and look at the mess and go, oh, my God, the mess. Look at this mess. That's the first thing I'd see. I'd be like, oh, it's the cleaning and the time it's going to take me and the stress that I'm giving to myself. And me now, learning the love language of, being curious and stopping and taking a moment to have a look at what's going on. This actually only happened to me yesterday. We're just coming out of the holidays, and I could smell this beautiful aroma in the house. My son was cooking. Well, someone was cooking. I didn't know quite who. I finished with a client and I could smell this smell. And I come out of my office and I go downstairs. I'm like, wow. I walk in and, of course, eyeballs. Wow, a lot of mess. And it's one of my real messy kids, right? There's can I say, shit everywhere, right? It's just everywhere. And old me would be like, oh my God, the mess. But I was wired wired differently, and I'm like, hey, what do we got here? And look, Mum, what I've made. And I used vegetables, Mum. I got chicken out, I've got zucchini, I've got carrot, and I've got onions, and I've cooked it all up. And he'd put it into these nice wholemeal wraps, and he'd made this wild concoction that looked like a giant wrap pie. And he'd put it in the oven, and he put some cheese on the top, so it smelt divine. And he said, do you want some? And I asked him all about the ingredients, and we just had lunch together. We sat down.
That's
and
so lovely.
I cleaned up a little bit. And then he looks across, he says to me, Mum, thanks for cleaning up. I'll do the rest. You go and get back to it. 20 years ago, I would have missed that. I would have missed that. I wouldn't have taken the moment to see what was going on, to stop and take that minute. And so that's a powerful parenting moment. I've got to be in his world, not in mine.
Yeah, meeting them where they're at.
So, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah, I get emotional when I think about, the mistakes, and it's okay to be where I was at, or not to know these things. I've just been so quick to jump to things in the past, and
we all do it.
It's human,
especially as parents. But it's that awareness for parents and for people at work. But I love that. So, can you share the lateness example? And what it taught you? We're talking about lateness. I'm definitely not. It's a work in progress with me. So I'd love to hear this.
Well, it was what I was putting towards lateness, and this might have come from, from early childhood, from or from bosses and different people over time. Is I worked in a business where we were shop front, so you had to open the doors at a certain time, and that was from a very, very early age. And so you had no choice. You open the door, you open at 9 o'clock, you've got to open up. So there was a really big thing about that. So I think, of course I took this bias on, but it means different things to different people. And yeah, that's right. And so once I believed the story that lateness was not good, then I wasn't seeing the good in other people. So to explain the chain, so a value is triggered for one, for in me, right? And then my negativity bias zooms in. Yeah, the story is created and the connection and the appreciation drop. So therefore the performance suffers or the relationship suffers. And there's a way out. You know, we have to learn what that is, and that's probably what I'm going to lead into next, which is, you know, one of the fourth point that I wanted to make is we have to have a turning point there. We need to ask what the behaviour means to them, and to ask about lateness. So this is what I had learned. So because for me, time equaled respect and professionalism, but to them it might have meant flexibility, family demands, different nervous system and something different. And this ties into a client who called me last month, 2 months ago, and fight or flight moment, a new employee that we just put on, they've been late twice, and I was hearing myself in this straight away. They've been late twice, they've just started, and I said, well, you know, let's just take a moment. What does lateness mean to you? Oh, they disrespect me, they don't care about the business. And I said, let's just take a moment, take a pause, and ask ourselves what time, or ask them what time means to them. Can you just find that out before we jump the gun and think about termination under, 30 days and so forth? And the client said, okay. And within 20 minutes, called me back going, oh, they've never worked, you wouldn't believe it, Belinda, they've never worked in a business that was time like on the clock. So it was like I start at 9, I finish at 5. And so they were in a flexible workplace in all of their jobs, that as long as they got their 8 hours done, it didn't matter what time it happened. Right. And so he actually said, how did you know that? And I know I seemed like a mind reader at the time, and I felt like a mind reader at the time. He said, how did you know that? I said, because I've done it. I've completely done it. Time doesn't need to mean anything else. I need to stop and find out what it means to the other person. It's because it's my value and what comes up with me, and that's why we do have to stop in between and recognise that circle. We've got to find out what time means to other people, or what the topic means to somebody else. It could be performance, parenting, anything at work, on the playground. You know, when you're looking at other mums and you think, oh, I wouldn't do that. And so judgment comes in, and next thing we're thinking about judgment. But I've learned to look at what I love about them. So if someone was late for me today, I'd be like, hey, something must be wrong. Are you okay?
Yeah, thinking back to your client, is that if he or she had not been able to, had felt, had actually had that conversation, they could have lost somebody who was obviously very well, very well experienced for the job, was perfect probably on paper. Maybe that was just the only tiny thing. And now, not only is that person very empowered, but they're probably, perhaps their relationship's improved, and that'll take you to another level so early on. Like, there's just so much growth from that. So yeah, congratulations to you. But great.
Well, considering I encouraged the client to really slow down and hire slowly this time, so we had a very slow hire to ensure that the person, met all the right criteria and, the right vision and values, and they were really confident that they were in that great space. And this trigger happened. And so, just coming back to that, when that value is triggered.
And that's just one example. That's just one example. I'm sure it happens on so many different places, in so many different areas of working. If you can apply that same learning that you've just provided in so many different areas, that's gold. Wow.
Yeah. Well, we do have to notice the bias. We've got to realise am I seeing the whole person, or am I seeing a trigger,
Yeah.
something that's challenging for me? And that love language comes in, and what do I love about you? Let's and I'm sure even the seeing the good in people definitely came from me, and in younger life with not having such a I guess a background where things were traumatic in my home, yet I didn't want to believe it, so
Had
I
the
was looking at the
good.
good in people
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so looking at the good probably didn't give me great boundaries in years gone by, because I was looking at the good, but I've learnt to shift that. As long as someone's not doing something wrong by me, that I want to look at what's going on that's great, because otherwise we miss so many things. We're focused on that one little thing, even the toilet seat. We're focused on the toilet seat being left
Yeah.
up, and look at the 5 beautiful things that happened in the day, and we're talking about a toilet
we
seat.
completely miss it.
And
Yeah.
there is that bitter sweet spot though, because absolutely looking for the good in the day is more wonderful, that we try and train our mind to do that. However, it's actually setting back and actually seeing the whole thing and not dismissing the other as well. You know what I mean? Like you've got to be honest with what's going on in right, because you can get into a toxicity then of just seeing the good and normalizing the bad behavior that's going on. So there's a real fine balance of finding that too, isn't there?
Yeah. I totally agree with that, Nicole. You have to have those boundaries in place that are around the good behaviour. As long as I'm not looking at something that someone's done as being poor behaviour, it's just something in me. It's something that they might be doing. It will be a trigger in me. Let me have a look at all of the really good things. If they're repetitively doing something that's not okay, then we've got to call that out. It's a different conversation. Though, you sit around a team meeting and they go, "Oh, Bob, he does this, and Cara does that," and I'm like, "Well, what about the really cool things that they do?"
Yeah.
The reframe. What could this mean? So actively looking for the good, as I say, notice 3 good things about the person each day, what they did well, what they contributed, and how they showed they cared in effort and growth. And if teams were able to do that on a regular basis around each other, it really improves teamship. It really lifts the value proposition of what they're doing together, is talking about those good things. And recognition's on the hierarchy as well. So if I'm not recognising how beautiful you ladies are and the great things that you're doing, then I'm not giving you back, one of your, requirements. So your, I guess, psychological, physical requirement is recognition. We all need it. And that's championing people, loving what people are doing, and acknowledging that. That love language, finding what we love about people, has really taught me so much more in business and as a leader, and more than anything as a parent.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Even if the kids want to, I've got lots of boys. They like gaming, and we come from different eras. I'm in my 50s. My youngest is 12. And when I think about that, of course his interests are really different to mine. I've got to love on his interests. I've got to be really interested in that. Hey, what do you got there, buddy? Not like, oh, you're on the games again. That's the disconnect. We want to.
I love
want the
I love
connect.
that love on their interests. I really like that.
Yeah, love on their interests and love on and if we, I know, Sabina, you've got, one of your kids loves fishing, and I liked fishing because my dad was a fisherman and I liked it, but it doesn't mean everyone likes fishing. But if we're not interested in that, the thing that they love, then we miss so many connection points. So I say, Let's just find what we love about people and pour it onto them.
Find that common thread.
Yeah.
So important.
Yep. And sometimes we're even talking ourselves out of it in a sense where I've told myself something. I've interacted, put the bias in place that I think something's going on, like the place is messy or someone's doing the wrong thing because they're carrying a bag the wrong way or a way or suspiciously that I may have seen before. So my bias kicks in. A really good tip is ask yourself, is what I'm seeing or hearing true or untrue? Straight away.
That's such a great retrain.
And is what I'm telling myself right now helpful or not helpful? So quite often I think, oh, it's not even true. Okay, move on. Or is the thought helpful or unhelpful? No, it's a really unhelpful thought actually.
That's an amazing way to...
Or what I'm thinking about someone.
Retrain the brain in that way for it.
Yeah. I think it's the reframe. It is that specific reframe to ask myself, is what I'm hearing or seeing true or untrue?
Similar to what you just said. So what you just said, that's a really good, simple question that that our listeners can use, like on the go, like a plug and play. Basically, they can use it like as soon as they get off this podcast. They can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you notice the bias, you reframe the story. What could it mean? What could be happening here? When you might walk into a room and two people are in a huddle and we've decided to tell ourselves that they're talking about us.
Yes, I've been there, definitely, yeah.
Yes, is it true or untrue? Do I know they're talking about me? No, I don't know it's true. Right, out the door, bring the thought out. And this can hold us back at work particularly. What are you guys talking about? It's just us deciding that we've seen what playground antics might have happened when we were young, that when people were talking, they're talking about us. And they're not. They're talking about themselves. If we really want to know, they're talking about themselves. They're not talking about me.
I saw this meme.
They're not talking about us.
Of a husband and wife sitting together and he's just thinking about cars and stuff and she's sitting there thinking, he's not talking to me. Oh, my God, does he love me anymore? Is he, and then going, what are you thinking about? I'm just thinking about what car I want to get or like a wheel or something. And you just go, oh, God. And here over here, they're having a panic attack in it. And, it just goes to show you it's what's not true. And what does choosing love look like for you now?
Well, I don't think love is something that just happens. I think it's what we choose to look for. And what we focus on grows and what we ignore fades. And so what leaders see in people become kind of who the people become. They're like, oh, they've seen them, I feel seen, I feel heard. Coming back to psychological safety at work and safety in our homes. But we cannot ignore what's in front of us. And it's a massive choice. We choose to.
And that's it. It's always having the choice, right? We always have a choice. We always have the luxury of choice, but we just need to exercise it and remember that we have that choice. It's
even when we feel like we don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've chosen that. So even in the example today, like if you've got a husband or partner, we've chosen that partner. So I choose to see the good in them. I've chosen that employee. I choose to see them. I've had that child. I have that stepchild, or I'm looking after someone. I've chosen to do that. It wouldn't be thrown upon me. And because I have that choice, my second choice is I choose to see the good in you. I choose to see what I love about you, what I like about you. And if we can do that across the board with teams, we're going to have a lot more collaboration. We're going to have a lot more comfort.
Yeah, very much.
Wow. I love this. I love this topic. Great. Great stuff. Thank you so much, Belinda. Thank you.
Well, thank you, girls. Thank you,
We'll have
girls.
to revisit this topic, I think, because there's so much
Quite
to
loaded.
it, and we can apply it to so many different areas of our lives, like from parenting to professionalism. So great, thank you so much.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Well, our vision in this podcast is simple. Burnout, business, and body aren't separate. They're connected. And when you take care of all three, you don't just survive life, you thrive in it. We're here to motivate, educate, and encourage you to take care of what matters the most, which is you. And if you'd like to know more, follow, like, and connect with us, and we can work with you individually or as a team using our 8-step growth master plan. Thank you so much.
See you later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, ladies. Bye.